Johan, thank you so much for your time. I mean, we've just given a background in terms of the conditions that you were working under, but what were some of the highlights for you when you look at the period that was?
Well, I think firstly, the portfolio weathered the storms extremely well. We had a few businesses that got hit quite hard during COVID, particularly our panel beating businesses, Blue Spec and so forth. With the lockdown, people didn't drive, particularly in the evenings. They mainly stayed at home working and things like that. And that had an effect on that particular business. But I think they've done well. Other businesses like Rain, our data business, did extremely well. And as people started working from home, they needed better connectivity. That worked for us. Our banking venture struggled a bit. TymeBank that we ran. We planned a big collaboration with the ZCC in this regard. You know, with the lockdowns, the churches were largely prohibited from gathering in large numbers, and that did have a negative effect on us. But by and large, if we really look at the portfolio, we weathered the storm pretty well, and nobody really went under. And we came with, I think, fairly credible results.
Right. Let's talk about, the telecoms bucket of the portfolio. I do understand that you will be disposing of the entire asset of Metro Fiber. Perhaps you can give us a background as to what were some of the challenging aspects of that business.
Well, Metro Fiber is becoming much bigger now. They need capital to really grow. It is capital hungry. And it's become much more like an infrastructure fund, which means that they have like a property investment, which means that they need substantial amounts of money with bank funding and, with relatively lower returns. Our hurdle, because we also have a whole lot of poor people invested within our vehicle, particularly on the Ubuntu side, that's been with us for quite a while. Our hurdle is 16%, and infrastructure investments don't really give us that kind of return in the later stage when they're more mature. So this is time for us to move on from Metro Fiber. We sell it to people who have lots of capital, in this case, a consortium of Old Mutual and the BE partner is taking on that asset.
There's so many aspects to your portfolio that one can touch on because you almost have your finger in almost every sector. But let's talk about the PE investment side. What's your sense of private equity investments in South Africa, the market around and the appetite for it?
I think the market is definitely changing. As we get less coverage, and so only the really very large companies are being covered and get financing. And increasingly, smaller companies have to go to banks and private individuals to get funding, not being listed. So we've seen a definite swing towards private equity being much more the flavor of the day. And getting returns that also justify, I think, that increased attention. So we're fairly happy with that. If you look at our portfolio, it's pretty wide. We try to invest in things that would make a difference. Bring South Africans that have been excluded from the economy, particularly in financial services, fintech, data, the stock exchange. Those kinds of things, make it more accessible, make it cheaper for people to participate, both in terms of investing, but also, simply for clients to get a better deal, like, for instance, in TymeBank with lower costs of transaction loans, transaction and so forth.
Let's talk about, strategic focus going forward. What does the next year or so entail for ARC?
Yeah, the next year would be 3 or 4 major investments who were startups and still not at break even, including Rain TymeBank and so, to get them to break even so that they start making money. Up till now, they did use a disproportionate part of our cash. But and then, using those platforms to grow, get more clients on board and so. But in particular, also to use these things as synergies and a sort of magnets of growth, invigorating the whole portfolio. And I think we're well on our way there. It is much more going forward of making sure what we have works and deriving the synergies from our portfolio, rather than simply adding, many more assets. It doesn't say that we won't do one or two, but it won't be at the same scale as in the past.
Johan, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That is Johan Van Zyl, who is the co-CEO of African Rainbow Capital.